Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. Trevor Lane here. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane. Plenty of NBA topics to get into today, including the Utah Jazz and some situations that they've got going on with Donovan Mitchell. Certainly something that could impact the trade front. Joining me as always is Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, how are you doing? Been a minute since we've hopped on for one of these shows.
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. I think I might be doing a little bit better than you,
Absolutely.
but that's it's just how it goes. But yeah, things are good. We are in the final throes of summer here. We've only got a couple days left, and everything kicks back off for the Smith family next week. School, soccer, all that goodness. So I'll start right back up, and then we're going to be right back in the routine. Which honestly, I'm not opposed to. I kind of like the routine because it forces me to get going in the morning
Right.
and then locks me into doing things. So I'm not fully against everything getting started. Remind me of this like a month from now.
when you're
Browsing
complaining
about
about
so
all the stuff. Yeah.
exactly.
We had today is actually the first day of school for my daughter, and she actually has to miss school because COVID
Yeah.
finally hit our house, and it is not fun. I definitely did not have the energy to do the show yesterday or anything like that, but feeling a bit better today though. So hopefully I'm on the mend here, and hopefully she can get back to school next week because she's certainly disappointed to have to miss the first day, but it's the way it goes right now. The times that we're living in.
Good on you guys though for thinking of the greater good and keeping everybody safe and healthy, especially at the beginning of the school year.
Well,
So
and it's hard because my wife and I have been pretty sick. She's been totally fine. Our daughter's been fine and bouncing around and wanting to play and all kinds of stuff. So, it's especially hard when she's feeling perfectly fine to say no, you can't. We can't send you to school right now. So,
that's where you put
but
her and
she
your big
understands.
dog together. You send them out in the yard, and they fend
Yep.
for themselves for a few days, and off they go.
Yeah, easy enough. Easy enough. No
Yeah,
problems with that.
perfect.
All right, let's talk a little NBA news. The Utah Jazz apparently believe Donovan Mitchell is Donovan Mitchell. He will be gone in 2025 as soon as he hits free agency. They are assuming that he will walk out that door, which thus should give them plenty of incentive to trade him now while they can. I mean, if that is the widely accepted belief around the NBA, you would have to imagine that the closer you get to 2025, the more his value declines for other teams. But of course, we're still a ways off from that. So, what do you think this does to the trade front, to their negotiations with the Knicks, any other teams that might get into the Donovan Mitchell hunt here with the Jazz?
You don't think it changes anything trade wise because it's not like think back to Anthony Davis, right? There,
Sure.
there was all this. Well, he's just going to go to the Lakers anyway, so it did kind of impact the trade market, which turned into the trade market was the Lakers anyway.
Yeah,
But I think with
and they
Mitchell's
got a
case,
haul.
yeah, exactly, yeah, and they did all things considered. The Pelicans got a haul knowing it was kind of Lakers or nobody in a
Right.
sense. I'm with that, but that's ancient history at this point. But I think why it's important to note that though is Mitchell is this is not a year away, so I don't think any team is going to be in the position of well he's only going to New York anyway, so let's
Right.
just forget it. Because what you would hope is well we'll trade for him now, and long before he's a free agent, we'll convince ourselves that he's going to stay here. We'll convince ourselves and we'll convince him to stay here. So I don't think it does anything to his immediate trade market. I do think though this is further proof that he's going to get traded. There's no way this doesn't get done. I still think this probably gets done. I still think it's probably to the Knicks before the season gets started here. It feels like everybody kind of took a little pause there for a couple weeks, and now we're really only about 5 weeks ish, 6 weeks away from everybody kind of regrouping back together
Mm-hmm.
in their cities and doing the pre-camp workouts and all that stuff. So I think we're going to get movement here, but I don't think it changes anything in that front. I don't think the Jazz get any less than they would have got anyway in this. I just think it's kind of owning this is probably where we're headed anyway.
How soon do you think Utah wants to get this done before training camp starts, or how willing do you think Danny Ainge is to going into the season with this kind of hanging over them? No, I mean, look, they go into media day. There's going to be a million questions about
Sure.
this.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because if you look at the Utah roster right now, without Rudy Gobert, but with Donovan Mitchell, with all their other veterans, you can really kind of look at it and say, the team could still be okay, right?
Yeah,
They can still compete.
they could be good enough to accidentally win some games that Utah may not want to win.
Therein lies the issue. You're spot on it, man. See, you're playing. You came to play today. It's the Triple A flu game. You got
My
this.
wife has reminded me a few times I've done something, and I've been like in the middle of doing something and then forgot what I was doing, and she's like, COVID brain, it's a thing, and I'm like, yes. So I'm trying to do my Leslie No flu episode of Parks and Rec here and push through.
You're going to carry it today. Yeah, I think that's it. I think the Jazz want to be firmly in the mix for Victor Wembanyama, and bringing Donovan Mitchell with all the other veterans into camp. That's the team that's probably play-in territory, in the West, and I think they don't really want to be there, right? You either want to be competitive in the playoffs, or you want to be like completely out of it. So I think we're sitting in a spot here with the Jazz where it is, all right, let's get this figured out, because let's get Mitchell moved. And the other part of it too is that triggers us. Let's start moving some of the other guys. Let's Conley, Bogdanovich, Clarkson, Gay, Beasley, Beverly. Let's start moving on some of those other players as well. So I do think this is likely this gets done within, let's say, the next couple weeks.
We've been waiting for something to spark the trade market, something to clear kind of the logjam, and the Donovan Mitchell situation could be that thing. I think that it can happen independent of Kevin Durant, which I think is even the bigger domino to either follow or not follow, some sort of clarity on that front. But everything has been sort of at a pause for, about a month now, almost. We're getting to about that point. And if the Jazz ultimately do make a move here, that could be the catalyst that we've been waiting for to spark some other successive moves as a result of this. So, teams that were hoping to get him that didn't get him might move on to other options. The team that did get him might try to do some other things in order to round out the roster. Something needs to happen. Donovan Mitchell could wind up being that thing.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. And then I think if you're the Jazz too, let's say whatever the Knicks package coming back their way is, you're probably talking 3 or 4 for 1. My guess is, just to make the salary matching work with younger players who are on rookie scale contracts. And then if you're the Jazz, you start running into roster spots because you took a whole, 4 for 1 in the Gobert trade. So now you've got to do some work, and you don't want to be sitting a week or 2 out from camp trying to find homes for 5 guys versus just one. If it was trading one player, that's a little different. You can handle that. I don't think this is, even if he's still with the Jazz, I don't think this turns into a situation where it's say just stay home or anything like that. I think then they kind of shrug and say, all right, well, let's play it out and let's see where it goes. And every once in a while we see one of these stretch into the early couple months of the season, and then on December 15th, when almost all the guys who were signed over the offseason can be traded, then you see things free up, and we often see a trade kind of kick off there at the early part of trade season.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully we do see some kind of movement happen here, just to kind of liven up, reignite the NBA summer. The summer of trades that we prophesized did not really come to fruition because of the unforeseen Kevin Durant situation. It put a stop to just about everything. All the fun. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Katie.
Yeah, so let's juice this, right? Get this one going, and then let's get the other movement happening. Yep. Or let's just say it's not happening, and then we can all move on. And it's there was that reported meeting that Durant was apparently going to have with Nets ownership, and if the report out of that was, all right, you know what, we're gonna play it out for now, then we can all just kind of say, all right, let's just move on, and we can all stop waiting. And for me personally, jumping every time the phone goes off, because I was like, oh, what's that? What's this?
It'd be nice to all to do this.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, but hey, we let Major League Baseball have their shine, right, with their trade deadline.
They had their day. Yep.
Now it's time for the NBA to get going again.
That's right. We're getting so much NFL news right now with these constant training camp reports and everything. I'm like, come on, NBA. It's the poking with the stick meme, the do something. Right? That's us with the NBA right now. It's like, come on, let's get something going here.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit of Lakers now. I am going to follow it up with some Celtics after this, just for you, Keith. But to jump over to my Los Angeles Lakers, Kendrick Nunn. Oh, no, not back to 5-on-5 play just yet. That was coming from Jovan Buha of The Athletic. I don't. How worried should the Lakers be about that? Should Lakers fans be about Kendrick Nunn not returning to 5-on-5 play just yet? This is something that's been lingering since training camp last year. So last October now, he's been out with a bone bruise, still not participating in 5-on-5 work. And here we are in August. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's worrisome that we're basically a year later and we're still not back to getting going. So that part is very concerning. I think if you just start looking at the roster and the depth chart, that's also worrisome. I get it. LeBron James can run the offense fully understand that. If Russ is on the team, Russ is going to have a big hand in running the offense when he's in the game too. But you need somebody who's an actual point guard with those guys, if for no other reason, somebody who can defend the opposing team's point guards. Because LeBron's not doing that. LeBron is not chasing Stephen Curry around a million screens. In the way they're set up today, you don't necessarily have a guy who's perfect to do that with on the roster. So that's where I think Kendrick Nunn, not that he's a shutdown defender or anything like that, but he is at least an actual point guard. And you can put him all out there and say, hey, kind of do your thing. And I think if the goal at all is to really lessen Russ's role, move on from Russ, maybe you don't get a point guard back, you kind of really increases the need to have Kendrick Nunn on the floor. Yeah. So hopefully it's August. We can be conservative. I don't. You would know better than me. I don't know if they're doing training camp abroad, like away somewhere this year. I know they used to do Hawaii.
They used to do Hawaii, but as far as I know, they're not. But I'll have to wait and see.
But even with that, hey, just as long as he's ready to go and we open training camp at the end of next month, that's all we really care about. That's if he's full go 5-on-5 then. And they'll probably be cautious with him just coming off the injury. We know they'll be cautious with the vets, but as long as he's ready to go, then I'm not going to care too much. But it's a little concerning that we're a year out and he still can't play 5-on-5.
I will say a couple things for the positive side is Kendrick Nunn himself, it was about a week ago, said he's 100%.
Yeah.
So that's a great sign. And then he's also been posting workout footage, and it's pretty strenuous stuff. It doesn't.
Yeah, it's not just standstill shooting.
Right. He's not just doing spot up shooting or anything like that. Like he's playing one-on-one, he's attacking, he's spinning and shooting and doing all kinds of stuff.
Good.
So that suggests those two things suggest he's probably, if he's not truly 100%, he's probably just right there. It could just be a formality. He's not officially cleared for a 5-on-5 yet or whatever, but they know he could play 5-on-5 if he needed to, or maybe they're just being cautious. But again, I'm not going to. To me, this is it's nothing until it's something type of thing. Yep. Until we get to training camp and suddenly he's still not playing 5-on-5, then it's cause for concern. But based on those other things that we've seen so far, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Hopefully he does start playing 5-on-5 soon, though, because the rust factor, I think, will matter. Because doing drills and things like that, it's not the same as actually playing 5-on-5 or running up and down the floor. So that
and the timing with the guys, right? Yes. That kind of stuff, getting out there. I think people are forgetting a little bit because I see both sides of it, right? I think we got too deep into the season last year where it was like, can we stop saying we got to wait till Kendrick Nunn is back to judge the Lakers when we're like 70 games in? It's like, no, I think we've judged it. I think we know where this is going. But I think it's also gone too far the other way where people are like, Kendrick Nunn is even good.
Yes,
he's good. He's a 15-point per game scorer on pretty good efficiency. He's not a traditional point guard, but that's kind of what you like about him because the Lakers don't need that. He can probably play with Russ. We know for certain he can play with LeBron. That's not going to be a problem because he's pretty good off the ball. So it won't surprise me at all if by the time, let's say, the Russ situation is dealt with somehow, right? Whether he's traded, he's released, whatever it is. It's not going to surprise me at all if Kendrick Nunn is their starting point guard, playing alongside the main guys, provided he's healthy, because he is a good player. It's just it's almost weird where I feel like sometimes being maybe the outsider on it, because I don't root for the Lakers, so I'm not kind of pushing the this guy's amazing, he's going to fix everything propaganda, but I'm also not on the side of like, I hate everything, so he sucks and he's not even good. I feel like sometimes I'm on this like weird like island where it's like, am I the only one that remembers like he's actually a good player?
Well, you're in the in-between space. And the reason for that is there's the out of sight, out of mind effect.
Sure,
There's
absolutely.
that. In terms of trade value, that sometimes gets conflated with who the guy is as a player. And in terms of trade value, other teams can look at him and just say, well, the only real value we can give him is being an expiring $5 million contract, essentially. That's because we didn't see him play last year. We can't count on that he's going to play or whatever. So that's different, though, in terms of when he's on the floor, is he a productive player? And we've seen historically the answer has been yes.
Yep.
And then on top of that, there's fan frustration that gets mixed in there. I've had a number of Lakers fans who I've had to say, why are we mad at Kendrick Nunn? He wants to play. He has every incentive to play, financial and otherwise, to play the games. His body hasn't let him, but a lot of people have been frustrated with Nunn saying, oh, he stole money and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
he wants to be on the floor. That goes too far, and that's not the situation here.
Fully there with being disappointed that he hasn't played.
Yes,
that because really the Lakers got nothing out of their taxpayer mid-level signing last year. Right. That's a huge problem when you have such limited resources to build out your team. That was basically a roster hole all season long for them, and that's an issue. So I fully understand like being disappointed, being bummed out, but the whole stole money, that stuff that goes too far because it's not like we were getting reports of he's ready to go, but he doesn't feel good about playing or anything like that. Everything seemed like it was more the other way, where it was the team kind of holding him back a little bit. So I'm curious. Let's get him on the court. Let's see what he looks like because I certainly think he's going to help them quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on to your Boston Celtics, who signed Noah Vonleh. Blast from the past. I remember vividly debating Julius Randle or Noah Vonleh. Who is it that you want in the draft? I think Randle wound up going 7. Vonleh, I think, went 9 at the time. Vonleh winds up with the Celtics. I know they've got some open roster spots, so decent chance he makes the team here.
Yeah, he's a local kid too. He grew up in Haverhill. Now, if people are like, wait, where'd you say he grew up? I fully understand. It looks like it says Haverhill or Haverhill or Haverhill. It's Haverhill is how it's said in Massachusetts. So live with it. That's where the city is located. That's how we say it. But anyway, just people are going to be like, wait, I thought he was from Haverhill. Like that's not how we say it. But that's just me being picky as a Massachusetts kid. Noah Vonleh, he's bounced around a lot. The craziest thing to me is he's only 26. Like, just further proof of these guys come in so young now that they can be bouncing around the league. It feels like they've been around forever. And then it's like, wow, he's 26 years old. So that part is, I think pretty big there with that. So I think the other part with him is he has at every stop been a very good rebounder and a fairly productive defender. His challenge has always been offense. So now if you get into a position with him with the Celtics where it's, hey, all we really need you to do is rebound and defend, we'll take care of the offense. That's fine. His jump shot came along last year in China, better than it had. And to your point, they're sitting on 3 open standard roster spots right now. They're going to have to get to 14. So they're bringing in a host of guys that are going to compete for those spots. One of the needs that they do have is somebody who can be a 4 or 5 for them on the roster because they're a little bit thin there right now. So I think Noah Vonleh does have a real chance to stick in Boston. And it's one of those things where I'm like, let's not get insane and be like, oh my gosh, hand them the title and all that stuff. The final piece is here. You're not signing.
Power shift.
Yeah, exactly. You're not signing the final piece in August. But it is, I feel like this is one of those, there's no risk to this. So bring him in, give him a chance to compete and let's see where it goes.
Man, I knew he had bounced around, but I didn't realize he's played for 7 NBA teams already and he's 26 years old. That's unreal.
Yeah, it's basically like every year was a new team.
Yep.
And then he got traded a couple of times too.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, there's talent there. So late bloomer, maybe. We'll see. Yeah. But if it doesn't work, they just cut him and they move on to whoever's next.
Right. Yep. Easy to do that in this situation. All right. The Pistons have re-signed Rodney McGruder. Your thoughts on that? Is he a lock to stick on the roster?
Well, I mean, Klay Thompson and Draymond Green might think differently. I don't know if you remember when they went on their whole thing about he's not even going to be in the league a couple years ago when he lit the Warriors up.
That's right.
But yeah, I do think he's going to stick on the roster. It's a fully guaranteed contract. I think the Pistons have turned the corner a little bit with. We want to have a couple veterans around to help the younger guys. And I think he's somebody that they like in the locker room with the kids. He's been, let's call it semi-productive when he plays.
Mm-hmm.
He can still knock down shots and do some stuff. So yeah, I think there's a chance where the Pistons are starting to get a little interesting, and we're going to talk about this with another team too in a little bit. Is they now have I'm pulling it up. 17 players on guaranteed contracts. So
eating some money.
15. Yeah, so you're going to have to waive a couple. We know Kemba Walker is very likely to be one of the guys who's going to get waived, but then they're going to have to waive somebody else. Maybe it's Saban Lee. Maybe it still is McGruder. Could be Darlins Noel or Alec Burks. There's been a lot of talk of, maybe they could buy out Kelly Olynyk because they're starting to get a little stuffed in their front court. So we'll see, where that goes. But it's, just something to keep an eye on there. Somebody's going to pop for you who can probably play and maybe be worth a flyer for another team.
And teams may swoop in there. So look around the league and look at the teams that still have roster spots open. Somebody could grab a player there. CJ Elleby signs with the Wolves. Interesting player. He's got good length and has some capability. Again, not like you said, not going to see like power shift moves here in August. But I think the Wolves, despite feeling like they overpaid in the Gobert trade, which I think is fair, they've had a pretty decent offseason here.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Kyle Anderson, Bryn Forbes, Austin Rivers. Those are all good quality rotation guys. They've still got, obviously, Towns and Edwards and D'Angelo Russell. They were able to keep Jaden McDaniel in the trade. So I think that part is important too. So, I think they're positioned to do some interesting stuff. Jaden McDaniels. I gotta get the former Patriots offensive coordinator out of my head with that one. But yeah, I do. I think they've done all right here. Whether Elleby makes it or not, we'll see. That they're sitting on a bunch of guys already there in Minnesota. That they're up to. He's their 16th player, but they've got a couple guys on partial and non-guaranteed deals. So we'll see. If he makes it or not. But there, and then I don't know if we covered it before, but Eric Pascal was signed to a two-way contract, which that's really interesting because this is a guy who I think we all kind of liked him with the Warriors first couple years and then disappeared a little bit in Utah last year, but now he's on a two-way with the Wolves. So building out some good quality depth there in Minnesota.
Wow, he's only played 3. I was going to say, it feels like he's been around longer, too long to qualify for a two-way contract.
Yep. But this is last year.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
But that was a nice pickup for them. We need to move on to the other Wolves camp signings. There were 3 guys that they
Portland. Portland. Sorry, I might have told you Wolves, but it's Portland.
Oh, Portland camp signings.
Yeah.
All right. Hold up. We can adjust on the fly here. You talk about Portland's camp signings, and I can adjust the header.
You fix the header. Perfect. Yeah, Portland bringing in 3 guys on camp signings. One a little more notable than the others, but Isaiah Miller, Jared Rhoden, and then Norval Pell. I gotta find out if it's Pell or Pelly. But look at you. Way to go. But bringing in those 3 guys, these guys are probably all not going to make the team. But what it sounds like they're doing is they have one open two-way spot. So it sounds like they're going to basically let these guys battle it out for that open two-way spot because they've already got 15 guaranteed contracts. And they're also, not only that, but they're also over the tax. So they're not going to want to be in a position to do anything that brings money on by waiving somebody to keep one of these guys unless they really show up. But bring them in, let them all compete for the two-way spot that's open. That's never a bad idea. So it looks like that's Portland's goal here going into the offseason. But Isaiah Miller, Norval Pell, and Jared Rhoden coming in.
All right. So there's some more Blazers coming in. The Suns added some guys too. Duane Washington Jr. and Ish Wainright. Again, just rounding out that depth. The Suns, are we overlooking them at this point? Like, it almost feels like because of what happened in the playoffs, they're getting overlooked for this next season as though they're suddenly no longer a viable contender.
Yeah, a little bit, right? I think too they didn't really do anything as far as adding major new players in this offseason. Their main thing was re-signing or matching the offer sheet. Let's be clear with the facts here. Matching the offer sheet for DeAndre Ayton.
And the Kevin Durant. I mean, they're probably in some ways they're a victim of the Kevin Durant situation where they were kind of waiting to see what was going to happen there.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Now, part of the reason though they didn't do a lot else, they don't have a lot of roster holes. I mean, their roster was relatively complete. I still think, all things considered, this is one of the more well-rounded, deeper rosters in the NBA. I think collectively maybe we're left with a bad taste in our mouths from the way it finished, right? Because they get destroyed in that Game 7 by the Mavericks.
Yeah.
So I think we're all kind of left. Is this it? They've got a couple older players. Jay Crowder had a really rough season, but yeah, I think you're right. It would nothing would surprise me at all if we're talking a year from now and the Suns were the team that were in the finals from the West. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I think they're right in the mix at the top of the conference with everybody else. I think too they probably now, a lesson that very many teams learn over the years is we don't need a push to win 60, 65 regular season games. We can, if the best thing is, hey, let's give Chris Paul, a couple days off here, give Chris Paul a couple days off and just keep going. That's hard because he doesn't ever want to take them. He wants to play. But yeah, I mean, they're going to be tough. Sneaky thing too, that I even keep forgetting. Dario Saric is coming back.
That's right.
And I think he was pretty good for them before he got hurt in the finals in the 2021 finals, and he missed all last year. I think he's going to be a big part of why they didn't go out and get more, keep JaVale McGee or go get another center. I think they feel pretty good with him kind of backing up Ayton because they get a lot of mileage out of that. Plus, they have Bismack Biyombo back as well. So, yeah, I think Suns are going to be tough.
Yeah.
And these two guys, two good two-way guys, two guys who've been around the league now for a year. Guys who can provide a little bit of depth if you need them to. I think these are two good ones. Duane Washington's really kind of interesting too because he's a point guard, and there's times when the Suns have clearly not been in love with everything campaign's given them behind Chris Paul. So maybe Washington, if he plays really well, could sneak in there, steal a real roster spot, and then go. And then I kind of like the Damian Lee signing for Phoenix too.
Yes,
this is a very underrated, kind of under the radar signing.
Yeah, that is a good one. Cameron Payne, if the Suns don't love what he's doing, he's an interesting piece to potentially move.
Yeah,
in terms of salary that you could toss into a deal if it comes to it. Yeah,
without a doubt, they've got some guys that they could stack together in trades because you got Payne. He's on a functionally an expiring contract. He's only $2 million guaranteed next season. Dario Saric. Torrey Craig's on an expiring deal. Jay Crowder's on an expiring deal. So they're going to be a team that if they need something come trade deadline time, they're going to be able to get in the mix to get it. The question will be, they are now $16 million over the tax line. What's going to be their limit? Yeah, how far are they going to be willing to go over the tax line?
That's a tough spot for Phoenix, for Suns fans, because they're so close. You got to go for it. But if you're unwilling to spend at this point, that's frustrating. We'll see. Maybe they will.
Yeah, we're not saying anything a million others haven't said.
No, yes,
don't already know. So
right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely frustrating. Because you want to be like, hey, even we don't necessarily need to be the Clippers and Warriors and be 30-40 million over the tax, but like, yeah, could we go up to 18 to 20 if it's really the right player comes available for us to trade for? Yeah, you would hope the answer is yes when you're that close to winning a title.
All right, the Raptors, they signed Gabe Brown, round out their roster a little bit there. Toronto, another team that I think has been pretty solid. I love the Otto Porter Jr. Addition for them. And they're going to be another tough team. And who knows, maybe another team that is still in the mix for Kevin Durant, depending on what Brooklyn does.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I mean, and if ever hit a point where for whatever reason they decide, fine, we'll throw Scotty Barnes on the table, we'll go. And it's kind of a big year, I think, for Toronto for a couple of reasons. One, you've got Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr. can be free agents next year, so that's something to keep an eye on. So not that those guys are going to necessarily be gunning for stats by any means. Van Vliet, I think, has now proven what he is as a player. But I think, you've got that. You've got Pascal Siakam's only got one more season after this year. So kind of an interesting year for Toronto. They were, I think, probably slightly better than expected. Last year, I think they're one tier below at least the best teams in the East, but they're going to be tough. But yeah, Gabe Brown comes in. I don't think he has a real shot at making the roster out of camp, but this team makes really, really good use of the G League team. Yeah. And Brown being on a camp deal, he will get to Raptors 905 of the G League, and they've done really good with development stuff and then pulling guys up out of the G League as they go. So that's what this one's targeted towards.
All right. Last but not least, the Thunder signed everyone's favorite former Laker, Mike Muscala.
Beloved in Philadelphia for hitting that shot in the bubble that got them a nice draft pick too. So
there you go. He's just fine for that. I mean, we don't have the details on the contract yet, but you always need bigs who can shoot, and OKC, you could use a guy like Moose, and they seem to like him there.
Yeah, kind of a good mentor too for Chet Holmgren a little bit, because offensively they play similar-ish. Holmgren obviously far more potential than Muscala has and what he's shown. But I think this was the other team I wanted to talk about, though, when we talked about the Pistons are facing some tough decisions. So are the Thunder. The Thunder are now at 18 players under contract for next season. 16 of those players are fully guaranteed because it says it's expected Muscala will be. I'm sorry, 16 already are, even if Muscala is a partial or non-guarantee. It's expected Derek Favors probably gets waived,
right?
Because there's not a lot of reason to keep him around. But after that, it's going to be at least semi-tough call for them, because you have Teo Maledon, still super duper young. He's only just turned 21 back in June. So that's tough to give up on a guy, even though he's had some struggles. I think personally, Ty Jerome probably is one of the guys who gets let go. Maybe V. Krejci, but they'd have to eat a half guarantee on his contract. But yeah, they're going to be another team. They're going to let somebody go, and as we saw, they already had to face that with Isaiah Roby, and he got claimed off waivers because he's an interesting player who I think will be okay for the Spurs. So we're going to see where this comes together for OKC, because they've got some tough roster decisions to make here over the next couple months before the season starts.
Yeah, again, you're going to have some teams that are going to pounce on some of these guys that get cut from the teams who have more than 15 guaranteed contracts on the books right now.
And this could even be one, too, where if they don't want to just eat the money, you have San Antonio and Indiana both sitting on roster spots and $30 million in cap space each. You could just send one of those guys. Same for Detroit, too. And they're both rebuilding teams. So if they look at it and say, you know what, we kind of like Teo Maledon as a prospect for us, we'll take him and throw him some minutes. Or Spurs even, right? They're in a tricky spot because they only really have one point guard on the roster right now, and that's Trey Jones. They have a ton of guards, but he's the only real point guard. Probably the next best ball handler creator that they have is Josh Richardson, which he did quite a bit of that for Miami back in the day. But they're a team I'd be looking at, maybe. All right, Maledon, maybe Saban Lee from the Pistons. If they wanted to take a shot, just because they don't really have anything to lose. Why not? Right. You've got the roster spots, you've got the money, so just keep going.
Right. Absolutely. All right, everybody. I think that about does it for today.
I think you guys ready for a nap? I
am. I'm fading, but appreciate everybody joining us today. Make sure that you do subscribe right here to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Don't forget to go check out our Clips channel as well. Put the link to that in the description over on YouTube, and follow us over on Apple Podcasts. Give us that 5-star rating and review. Till next time, everybody. Stay safe and see you.